tree limb lay like thoughts fallen yesterday. Memories are a fickle thing. The other day when I thought about Zen was a chocolate Labrador retriever that we had some years back. And the name Zen because he sat with his legs crossed and he looked like he was one with the world. Back when we had Zen, we lived in the blue house. They had an 1.5 acre yard. Yes, there's yin and yang and everything, good and bad. So this yard was large, but it wasn't really meant to keep dogs inside. There was a farm market highway that ran across the front of the front yard, but the fence was so riddled with honeysuckles that you couldn't really see the highway. But you could hear the cars coming by at 55 miles an hour, that's for sure. We lived far enough out in the country that when the wife wanted some mistletoe for Christmas, I just went out with my shotgun and shot it out of a tree. So to keep old Zen from getting out there on that highway and getting run over, we come up with the invisible fence. Basically, you lay out the wire, the section of yard that you want your dog to have. We gave him about half the yard, set out the little white flags where the wire was so that he would know where he could and couldn't go. And if he got close to the flags, then he'd get a little zap in his collar. He figured it out pretty quick and he stayed in the yard. Well, I had built him a dog house out of wood, and he had a 55-gallon drum that the top was cut out of, and they were set pretty much side by side. I spaced them out and put a kayak on top of them for a little extra shade as they sat between two trees. It's all worked out pretty good for a little while. 2008 Hurricane Ike came through. I was looking out the window and I saw the door that goes to my hot water heater flying one way, and the kayak that I had on top of the two dog houses flying the opposite direction. And I thought, oh well. We were without power for about 8 days. Over half the flags had blown away in the wind, and now the invisible fence did not work without power or electricity. Made it a little confusing for poor old Zen, because he wasn't allowed to go past them flags, but now he could wander all over the place and he didn't get zapped. So for at least 8 days he just had to run the yard. But eventually the power came back on, which means the invisible fence was working again and he was back in his little section of the yard. But he had had a taste of the whole yard and somehow he wanted that back. You'd watch that dog, he'd go around in circles and he'd go faster and faster, and he'd shoot across that invisible fence. It'd zap him and he'd curl up and he'd get up and just haul butt. And dogs, being dogs, chased squirrels, cats, other dogs. So the fence challenged him quite often. All in all, Zen was a good dog. I think about him every now and then, and that invisible fence. I know there are several different kinds of invisible fences for humans. Look across the horizon and you think, it's just going to be a little zap, but I can make it.